Hello, welcome to Waiting for Game, a podcast presented by Melee Stats. I am your host, Gimme.Wheat, and we have a very special episode here. Of course, if you are a fan of Waiting for Game, I think we're at episode 59, 60, or something like that. We have had so many episodes. Me, Edwin Budding, and Sinister on a few, but we have a new co-host to add to this fold. Unfortunately, Edwin Budding, I heard, has a runny nose, and because of that, is not able to do a podcast. So we have who I believe is a close friend of Edwin Budding's. Um, Now, before we get to this person, I think it's good to talk to the person who kind of we're here for, who's giving us their time to talk about all this. We have Sunsei here as our guest.
Sup,
Sunsei,
sup?
you just got top 8 at the Big House. You qualified for both the Panda Cup and Summit at one tournament. How you been? How you doing?
Amazing. Honestly, so good. It's been, I feel like I've said this phrase a bunch. I will use a different phrase. I don't know. It's been a crazy week. We'll put it that way.
Mm,
It,
your life's a
I don't know.
movie, some could say.
A little bit. My life's a bit of a movie this week. I don't always have that. I don't have that much good fortune all the time, but it's cool to see something pay off in a big way finally. So,
You know
yeah.
what? Speaking of things that are paying off in a big way, finally, I do think it's let's talk about what was happening last time you saw us for any Melee Stats fans. Last time we had a episode about the Big House 10. And we had the whole gang here. We had me, Ambi Sinister, Edwin Budding, which, like I said, he's not able to be here today because of runny nose. And there was a couple bets thrown around. I heard there was a $100 bet on whether or not AMSA could win. There was another bet about, man, I don't even really remember what the other bet was, but there were a couple bets being thrown around whether or not AMSA could win. And I hate to bury the lead here, but he ended up doing it. And I think this is a perfect opportunity to introduce our new co-host. So I will say, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this person. I'm actually not that familiar with YarnYoshi, but he came highly recommended from Edwin Budding. So I was like, you know what? We're not really in the business of adding new co-hosts to this, but if Edwin has, if he's got the recommendation of Edwin, then that's like the seal of approval that I need. So we've got our new co-host, YarnYoshi. YarnYoshi, how are you doing?
I'm doing so great this week. The last 2 weeks of Melee, just in my opinion, have been so exciting. We see AMSA finally win a super major, something I've known that he would always do, something I've never doubted him in. Then we see him win another major. I repeat, a major the
Mm,
next week. He's winning two big tournaments in a row. And
YarnYoshi thinks
now
it's
with
a
his
major.
next goal of being number one, I think you'd have to be foolish to discount his own chances of that. And I was telling everyone the whole time, I always knew AMSA would believe it. And it makes me so sad that nobody
Oh,
believed in him.
no.
Don't cry.
Well, YarnYoshi, I like to think that I know a lot of people in the community, but I will say you were kind of a relative unknown. Do you want to kind of give yourself a little like explainer, kind of introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, that would be great. So I've been a big fan of Melee for a really long time, like since 2013 or so. I've had a lot of different interests. I was initially into sports and I was into music for a little bit, but I found Melee and I just really loved it. And I always loved Yoshi because he was so cute. And I always loved people who play Yoshi because he's really difficult to play and he's a mid tier and everything. And so much about my lifestyle I would describe as Yoshi. Like I eat eggs. I take care of my garden. I mow the lawn and everything. But yeah, I've been watching Melee for a bit. I've been friends with Edwin for a while, but he's been really mean to me a
Yeah,
lot. So
been
like
there.
I've wanted to write a lot. I wanted to contribute content. I watch a lot of Smash YouTube, and I've just never really had the courage to contribute a little more. Like I'm into writing. I'm into video making, but I've just never really done it myself. Edwin mostly tells me that like nobody would be interested in what I'd have to say. But unlike Edwin, I didn't lose $100 on a bet. Unlike Edwin, I always believe in miracles. So here I am, and now that he lost that bet and he's not feeling well, he figured his way of making it up to me through years of discouragement, but also sometimes being a good friend, he would let me be on a show. So we thank you so much for trusting me to be on. I'll be a good guest. I have a lot of opinions about Melee that I think you'll want to hear, but I have an open mind as well, and I've been a fan of the show for a while, and I'm
Okay.
really excited to finally be on.
Well, I love a fan of the show. Sensei, do you have any questions for Yarn Yoshi just to understand his background or?
Um, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot to unpack there. No, not at this time. I think you did a really great job explaining
Hmm.
just where you came from and in fact how you came to exist at all, and that it wasn't just recently that you existed. It was in fact a very long time and a rich and storied history. So really
Yeah.
appreciate that you're real. You are real and exist.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. A lot of people don't believe that I'm real, but I've always in a way to get other people to believe that you're real, you have to believe yourself and even the
That is
unreal.
That is,
so
yeah,
true,
that's a
Bessie.
beautiful
My
message.
God. Yeah.
And
Wow.
I just want to say congratulations on the Panda Cup spot, soon say. You're gonna I think because you made top 8 and everything, you auto qualified. Is that correct or not?
That is
Like,
correct. We got the summit spot and we got the Panda Cup
mhm.
finale spot, which I was like, I wasn't sure how people were getting the spots because it was a little unclear to me. I tried reading about the Panda Cup and it was just kind of like it was like, yeah, there's events that have like platinum and gold and silver and stuff. But I was like, what do I have to do at one of those events to actually, get the high five, get to go to the big boy event?
Yeah,
I
and
don't
lo
know.
and behold, you do it right now. So
Yeah, I was like, okay, if was that what it took? I didn't. I thought maybe I had some other results throughout the year that might have like put me in at least a spot I could get it. So it was cool to get just like an auto invite. Here you go, no questions asked. You just get to go now.
One of the greatest gifts that I think a competitor to get is just to not have to worry about all these circuits because we have a lot and they're all different and they all are confusing in their own ways. And then they're definitely confusing when you try to figure them all out. So you don't have to worry
I'm just
about
glad
that.
I can go. I'm glad I can go because
Yeah.
I remember you reached out to me. I think it was last year, right, for
Oh,
Smash World
yeah.
Tour.
That's for Smash World Tour. Yep.
And it was still kind of sketchy to travel at that time, so I'm just relieved that that everybody's kind of accepted it. COVID restrictions are just like they're still in place, but you can get places and not be like heavily chastised for like leaving your country or leaving your
Hmm.
house at all. So it's sick to be able to actually partake and not
Actually,
feel crazy.
yeah. That actually is I think it's a good thing to bring up. So me personally, me and Edwin Budley, I know, and Be Sinister, we're all people who have taken COVID very seriously. Yarn Yoshi, what's your opinion on COVID-19?
I don't really know what kind of question that is. What's my opinion on COVID? I mean, obviously, it's something very serious. I think events should take it seriously if needed. I feel like a vaccine mandate is
Hmm.
the
Are
most
you
important
vaccinated
thing.
yourself?
Yes, of course. I actually just got my bivalent booster about 2 weeks ago or so, maybe three.
Okay.
Yeah, like 3 weeks ago.
All right. All right. Well, I didn't know. I wasn't sure. Uh, now you say I hate to harp on this, but you say that you live your life like Yoshi. You eat eggs, you mow your lawn. I don't know if Yoshi mows his lawn so much, but I know. Do you know who invented the lawnmower? Actually, Yarn Yoshi.
Yeah, no, I know because Edwin constantly brings this up whenever I talk to him. He just yells at me all the time about how Edwin Budding invented the lawnmower and now
Hmm.
he's the greatest melee journalist of all time. That's all he does.
Yeah, and you kind of like when people ask like where are your tags from, he'll just say it's the inventor of the lawnmower, which like doesn't actually answer the question because it's like, well, why did you name yourself that? It's like you're telling me what it is, but you're not telling me. Okay, well, we don't have to go on.
Yeah, whereas with me, it's really simple. Yoshi's cute. There's Yarn Yoshi in Smash Ultimate, and Yarn Yoshi is very cute.
Do you like
And I
Smash
like Yarn
Ultimate?
Yoshi.
Do you like Smash Ultimate, Yarn Yoshi?
Yes.
Well, we're not here to talk about Smash Ultimate. We're here to talk about Melee. Yeah, let's talk about what happened here at the Big House because the Big House 10 was touted as one of the most stacked tournaments of all time. In my opinion, incorrectly. It didn't have Plup, but regardless, this was a tournament. 980 people. This is kind of what we needed in terms of large open bracket tournaments in Smash because Melee has been dying for a tournament like this forever. You know, you can look at Genesis. Genesis had a ton of people and had like a ton of top competitors, but it was still obviously missing a lot of the people who we expect to make big runs. And Big House, I think, was this kind of thing where like everyone except for Plup was there. Maybe missing some international people, but even then, like I think that this was such an insane tournament for anyone. And what it took to get to the top is one of the hardest tournaments of the year. And here we are, the 8th seed of this tournament, a person who Edwin Budding, YarnYoshi, your good friend, said had a 2% chance of winning. Here we are. We are looking at this. This is Amsa's tournament. This is his first major victory. This is one of the biggest tournaments of the year. I can tell you that I said that Edwin Budding's article was bullshit. That it does not take. It won't be the most miraculous thing in Melee history if Amsa wins, but still was taken surprised by this. Soon, so going into this event, what did you think about Amsa's chances? Because I know as the bracket developed, you two ended up in the same path. But like, who did you think was going to win this before anything was said and done?
Well,
Tough question, I
for
know.
I didn't think HBox was gonna win it, so I wasn't really agreeing with the first seed stuff.
Mm,
I think, and like Mango can be kind of streaky, so I wasn't thinking Mango either. I honestly thought it was gonna be Cody or Zane. Just Zane, I was thinking he probably wouldn't lose to Jmook again, at least not twice if they managed to play twice.
yeah.
And Cody's got a really good matchup spread right now, and I think he has a really strong like argument for number one as year round, maybe, or somewhere at least in that like category. So I would have probably called Cody or Zane if I was a betting man pre Big House, I probably would have said one of those two.
Now, would you bet against Amsa?
No.
Mm,
And I think the reason I wouldn't bet against Omsa is because aside from the fact that I played him at Gommel, I think he's like, and I guess it's easy to say like in hindsight and pretend I just like everybody knew the whole time. But Amsa's been getting freakier in every like over this year, especially and like with the move to Canada and being able to enter stuff and not have like to deal with the travel hindrances, I guess, that come with that, like jet lag and just I don't know,
mhm.
just it's a real seems like it would be a pain in the ass. I probably wouldn't even play Melee if I was from Japan trying to make it work in North America. So credit to him. But I Amsa's been getting such incredible results despite all this stuff that's in his way. And he's been looking more solid in every matchup that was conventionally bad for Yoshi. That I'm like, I don't know. Like, yeah, on paper it's bad, but every time he keeps playing, I just don't. There's nothing standing in his way that I think like makes me think, oh, he has no chance of winning this.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think that, I'm not going to say it was Armada, but once Armada retired, I do think that everyone in that field looked really doable, and that's uh, in my way of saying it's not Armada. I agree with you because the way that he has put time into these matchups has been evident, and like, yeah, there's no person who I say he won't like. Even Plup, I think Plup is probably one of the hardest people. Yeah, I think that Amsa could beat Plup. Like, I'm not about to bet against that. So yeah, I mean, I expecting it at the big house, maybe not, but I think that there was a likely path to a tournament victory at any point for Amsa, and we just so happen to be seeing it. YarnYoshi, what do you know Edwin's thoughts on this? Because I know that he did bet against Amsa. He
Yeah,
not
he was
only like
amazed.
made, yeah,
He totally discounted Amsa. He thought that he just thought that there was very little chance that like even if Amsa would beat because I talked to him about this before the tournament, right? He just like
yeah,
he thought that Amsa had like very little chance against like to beat
50 to 1
even getting
odds.
by Crudo is kind of tough, even though he would be favored in that. It's not like guaranteed. And he definitely thought that Hungry Box would be very hard outside
Mm,
Summit. That was like his big thing was that he thought H Box would be hard, and he thought that Plup or Leffen would probably beat him, and he thought that like even if he beat him, that Cody would probably come from the other side. But I
mhm.
always believed I thought that Amsa's trajectory was really high, and if it's even if it was 2% or whatever, like it's Amsa, right? So like you have to you have to believe in him a little more. And I always it's nice seeing Amsa win. I think it's incredible that for a 2 decade old game, a character like Yoshi could come out of nowhere as the meta develops and uh and actually win. It's actually kind of
Mhm.
beautiful, and I can't wait to see Yoshi keep winning. And I mean, he just did it last weekend also at the off season. So
I don't know if I'd call that a major, by the way. I know
Amsa won it. It's a major.
okay. You've got a very interesting accent. Where are you from, YarnYoshi?
I mean, I just told you before. I grew up with Edwin. If you were paying attention,
Okay, well,
I
uh,
grew up in
okay. There's
Massachusetts.
no need for this. I don't need this snark. Like I don't even really know you. and I had you on the podcast. But yeah, sure, go ahead, go lash out against me. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that this his shots against everyone individually, I think, are really good in terms of uh whether or not he's able to beat them. And this is just the time that we saw him string it all together. And like, yeah, if we had to create a bracket, hmm, Sensei, you did very well. I want that to be known.
Trust me, I'm in the fucking graveyard of that tournament. Sorry, there's by all accounts that should not have happened. Let's just put that out there. I get it. I do get it.
Sensei, I actually want to ask you a follow up question. What did you think of like obviously it's hard to cloud your look at these things in hindsight, but like when you ran into Leffen in bracket, like what did you think of him like kind of heading into the tournament as a potential opponent and actually playing him in reality? Like how did that sort of meet up and what do you think after?
I definitely felt like of my and I want to be clear that it wasn't because of like obviously Leffen talking about like playing Strive and stuff and spending more time
Mhm.
like outside of melee. I felt good about that matchup regardless. Like if you told me that I was playing Leffen at a major to make some big thing happen, that would be a preferred matchup of mine. I would way rather play at Fox Ditto than some like I don't know, like running into Zane, for example. Like running into Zane, I people talk about like all this stuff on paper. Like certain characters in tournament, just like I feel like have really good shots against other characters in a tournament setting. So I wouldn't want to run into like a Zane necessarily. I might not want to run into like a Jmook, but of the top seeds, I'd be happy to fight maybe like a Mango or a Leffen or like a
Mhm.
fast faller. So going into it, I was feeling fine, and like I didn't really realize Leffen hadn't been playing that much until maybe I don't know, like day before, and people are like, "Oh man, like you got this, like you got this, you got this." Like Leffen hasn't been playing, and I was like, "Well, we'll see." But overall, I wasn't thinking of it like that at all. I just was like, "Well, it's a Fox Ditto. I'm good at those, especially good at those, and we'll just see how it goes."
Yeah, I think it's really cool to see because you yourself are someone who's not really been able to show like what you've been working on recently, right? We saw you at Battle of BC. I think
Gommel.
you were at Gommel. I know that we had talked about going like really last minute to double down, and then I believe did you end up getting COVID? Was that what happened?
That was literally, yeah, Gommel boat was very it was a great time, but it's a COVID time. So yeah, I got sick after that and still trying to get my flight money back. Quick shout out
Mm,
to Hop 2, the booking agency. Go fuck yourselves. Sorry. Just had to get that out there. But yeah, so
oh,
if anybody from the Hop 2 agency happens to see it, woo, just wanted to let them know how I feel. But
it's gonna get
yeah,
awkward when we read our Hop to ad read.
yeah. This is
They're the
sponsored by
big
Hop 2. I
sponsor.
Oh my god, if that were in fact the case, fine. I they can transfer whatever they were going to refund me to you guys as the sponsorship money because yeah, that was some shit. But yeah, I got COVID after the Gommel boat, and I was like,
Mm,
that sucks. I'm feeling really motivated right now.
yeah,
And so I kind of just sat on it for a bit and decided to come over to the big house. Kind of not last minute, but as far as major bookings go, it was kind of last minute. So I, but I mean, to your point about not getting a chance to like show a lot of what I can do, like I had a good Battle of BC run,
hmm,
um, but I think there was still some confusion about whether I could do well on land. Like maybe just not absolute certainty because it's not like I'm like necessarily getting a JMOOC result. Just it's
yeah.
not. I'm not getting those results. I'm still making like slow baby steps where I might get a great upset at one tournament and not do so great at the next. Like I'm still feeling like I'm in that space. But I'm just so happy I was able to play as well as I did, even losing to Amsa when I did, and even against Zane. I feel like I just had some really exciting sets that I finally got like a lot of eyes on me playing. So it was a lot of fun.
I think it's interesting that you bring up, your kind of perception of you before this event, because in my mind, a lot of the people who we view as going through this like incremental, uh, just transformation, I guess, they tend to be the ones that stick around. I've said before, like, um, if you're looking at the bottom end of the top 100 or people outside the top 100, the easiest way to get there is to be really good at one matchup. Uh, but if you are someone who is like pretty overall, like especially like Marth players, I feel like we see this a lot, where the Marth players who are really good versus like floaties, and Falcon tend to be the ones that like end up having the slower rise, but the one that ends up peaking higher. And it's really hard when you look at like all these players. You, especially being a Fox main, I feel like you have to, in order like the greater perception of the community, you have to be like, no, I'm like the Canadian Fox.
Yeah,
Like even then,
I
unfortunately, you don't
that's
get that.
I know, I don't even get that. I get like the bronze medal of all bronze medals as far as Canadians go. Yeah, the whole perception thing and like up and coming players. I'd like to think of myself as a grinder and someone who just like, doesn't give up at all costs, but I wasn't feeling that great going into Big House. Like I hadn't practiced
Mhm,
a lot of melee. In fact, I'd argue I'd practiced the least I ever have for a major going into Big House. Um, which I'm not saying that as like a flex. That's like I'm disappointed I didn't try harder, but then at the same time, I'm like, well, what the fuck is that? Why did I get such a good result? Like, yeah, sure, there was some stars aligned with like Leffen not playing as much, but even then, like Johnny, Pipsqueak, like it's not like that was easy. So I don't know.
yeah.
It was very weird mentally for me to like come out of that event and be like, oh, I
I
guess
mean,
you can just
I
play
even thought
well.
that you were the way you were playing that weekend. People have been talking about you for so long as like, oh, this is Sunsei. He's got top 20 potential or whatever, right? Like, like people have always, really from your region especially, like have always really believed in you, and it's good. And like you had a great performance at Battle of BC and everything. And honestly, I thought that of all the foxes in that kind of range, on that like up and coming range, I did think that you would be a really challenging opponent for, even someone like Amsa. And I thought you two, in spite of him taking the set, like you had a really good, it was a good competitive set. I would love to see that happen again.
Mhm.
Yeah, I felt the same about it. I honestly loved that set. Like looking back on it, it was weird because like I don't know, I've always been pretty competitive and like to a fault and gotten pretty pissed off at melee. Like I'm not cool as a cucumber, or I haven't always been cool as a cucumber. I guess we're getting there. And the Amsa set was one of the few sets that I've walked away from such a big stage. I wasn't embarrassed. I wasn't feeling like stupid or like out of place. I just felt really proud of like I don't know. There was a lot of people making like excuses for Leffen, and a lot of people making like there's a lot of like okay but this and okay but that, and like it's sort of like the implication that I don't know if I totally deserved the spot there,
Mhm.
and I feel like I got to show off two people. I know I lost the set, but if you watch back that all those games, they were fucking nail biters. Like they were super close. They were not like Amsa washing me. They were not, and I was really proud of that. I was like, man, I really stepped it up from the Gommel performance, and I don't know. It was one of the few tournaments I'd walked away from being like, I'm a okay with fifth place. This was already such an amazing event for me, and yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's crazy.
Yeah, where do you think this that Yoshi experience came from? Is that like an egg money thing, or where does this come from?
Yeah, yeah, that's my boy Jarvis,
Yeah.
or and Mono. I know you mentioned Mono earlier because
True, mono,
I
yeah.
mean the Mono lore is that Mono's actually played in the same city as me for quite some time, is in
Mhm.
Calgary, Alberta. So he used to be Icy's main, but then he switched to Yoshi to earn the respect of many. And so he used to wobble the shit out of me at weeklies until I eventually learned the matchup. And then he also just, I think he was having more fun with Yoshi. But Mono was my wonderful warm up at the big house. And
Yeah.
Matt is a super homie of mine. And I've played a lot of Yoshi. Like I've even practiced a good chunk over like net play era, like Nez Mod God or just Nez, whatever, would hit me up occasionally to play. Um, and I don't know, over the years, I've played that matchup a decent amount. So part of it's just relying on old experience, and part of it's watching better foxes who have kind
Mhm.
of finessed the matchup a little better and try and steal some of what they're doing. So yeah, shout outs to Mono though. He was a unbelievable help leading up to the Amsa set. He gave me a lot of quick pointers on stuff Moki was doing better than I am, and just stuff to look out for, and it helped a ton. So
Yeah, I actually have a question that we don't tend to ask. We don't really go this deep into kind of like your own competitive acumen, I guess. But I think it's an interesting one. Do you have a matchup that you think that you're like a specialist in, or is there something that you think that you are lacking in and you're working on? Because when it just from my eye test, looking at your results, it seems like you're pretty well rounded.
um I can tell you what my shit matchup is. I can give you
Mm.
that one for free. Falco makes me want to. Oh,
Okay.
I have come to respect Falco players tremendously. but at the same time, oh my God, just a brief sidebar here. And I will answer your question about the matchup spread, but just a brief sidebar here that God damn it, when I see Falco players acting intelligent on Twitter, I just want to say some shit every time. They are the most look downy uponist fucking in your face. Oh, they drive me insane. I love Falco players, and I have so many friends who play Falco. This sounds like a weird thing to, or that's like the, yeah, okay. I hear some stupid parallels there. Point is that Falco has pissed me off for a really long time, and I'm finally starting to like the matchup. But my God, sometimes the people who play Falco are insufferable. I will say that, and then part of that drives me insane out of game, and then I'm tilted before I even start playing against them in game because I'm like, I know they think they're so smart. But as far as like the matchup spread stuff goes, I don't know. I feel like I kind of had a one size fits all play style for a bit where it would just be like, play with good spacing, don't be too much of an idiot and go for like unsafe shield pressure, try and, keep dash. And that's like a great, overall philosophy to take while you're trying to play melee at a high level. But I don't think that like I'm super like there are a lot of foxes that are smarter than I am in a bunch of different matchups across the board. If I had to say pick a specialist, to be honest, I kind of am a freak in the fox ditto sometimes. That would be the one. That would be the one. And it's like a shitty answer because like everybody's good versus fox. So saying you're good versus fox is kind of pointless nowadays. But that's the one that feels so doable. Anytime I play like Moki or obviously Leffen now, or I really want to get a shot at like the IBDWs in like a tournament setting to just see how that goes because I feel really good about it.
I think we need a Sunsei Kadorn set where you make him shield grab in a row 6 times.
Yeah, true. Okay, I will say the Marth one as well. I got bullied a lot by this one particular Marth player, Quaff, for the melee heads who understand
that Alberta is a region.
Quaff is unironically like if that guy decides to play, I'm serious. He's like the hidden boss. He is like probably like third best Marth in the world, at least versus Fox, and he's just such a great practice partner. But I spent years just rolled by this guy, so. I had to develop, and not just him, Solarius as well, who's like I was probably lesser known as well, but in Western Canada, just 2 Marth players that just ran.
Solarius plays multiple games, right?
Yeah,
like, isn't Solarius
Solarius is like
also?
a PM player first, and then he kind of
YarnYoshi, you know a lot about Alberta.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked.
I hang out with Edwin. I know a few things.
Okay, you hang out with him a lot. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm like in his head, sort of.
I give the nod to Fox Marth is the short answer. Probably we'll say that.
Yeah, I think I've watched some of your sets. I think you're right. Like it's really good to see that type of like player like I mentioned earlier. I think that the people who are kind of all around, it's really hard to be like I'm this fox, right? It's like hard to brand yourself, but I do tend to think that works well. And hey, we've seen you get 5th at 1,000-person tournament, and you're going to go to Panda Cup and go to Smash Summit. So maybe there's some credence to that. Now, YarnYoshi, going to direct my attention towards you. We mentioned egg money earlier there. You didn't really see your proverbial ears perk up because I don't know what Yoshi does. Yoshi have ears? First off, I guess question number 1: does Yoshi have ears? YarnYoshi?
Sorta.
Okay. And then question number 2 is we got a little taste of you say you have a top 10 players of all time. We got 1 through 5. Where does Egg Money? Does Egg Money rank on the top 10?
Yeah, I would say Egg Money is like 6 or 7.
6 or 7. Okay, cool. We're slowly filling out this entire top 10 because before the show started, we got the top 5.
It's hard between Egg Money and DZ though.
Yeah. Maybe just D's? Is it D's or is it DZ? Guess we will.
I'm not really sure. I guess he can't be that much of my favorite.
Yeah, he gets knocked down a slot because you don't know how to pronounce his tag.
Egg Money gets the nod above him.
What if you found out that Egg Money's tag was pronounced eggs?
I would be devastated, but also proud.
I feel like I've always called him eggs, just even though I saw the money sign. I don't think I don't know if I called Jarvis Egg Money. Just the second I found out his name was Jarvis, I was like, I'm not ever calling you anything else. You're Jarvis now. That's you can't screw that name up. It's just so easy to remember. So he's Jarvis eternally.
But calling him eggs, yes, Yarn Yoshi. That's a little bit of a spanner in the works, if you will. Um, Thank you for nodding along. This is, podcasts are an audio medium, but I appreciate you doing that just for the viewers because this is on YouTube as well.
Where do you want to go from here, Weed? I feel like there's so much to talk about Big House. Like we could dive into so many things between like Cody beating Zayn again, which I
Yeah.
think is absolutely crazy. Like a Fox beating Zayn 3 times in a row. Are you kidding me?
I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot about kind of the high level stuff that happened, what Mango did here, what Cody did. I think we're going to be talking a lot about that when it comes to the Ludwig event because all of these people not only were at Big House but are going here. But I think an interesting one to bring up is the topic of William Big Big Left Hagilta, because this is the person who we talked about. This obviously soon say that was your first big win at this tournament. I remember hearing the reverberations around the venue. Sunsei's up 2-1 on Leffen. Just like people running around like crazy. A little Dickensian sea or street urchin who is like extra extra.
Yeah.
Um, there is electricity in the air. I remember seeing that, but for a lot of people, I think that this was a bit of a shock that then led to people like being like pretty understanding of this. Like you mentioned, Leffen is on the Guilty Gear Strive mindset, the grind set, if you will. But like we've seen him in years past do Dragon Ball Fighters, win Evo, do Ultimate, win SmashCon by 6-0ing uh HBox. Like we've seen a lot of performances where he does well in both games, and yet this one, does this signal a difference in what we're going to be seeing from Leffen? 17th placing with losses to two obviously very good Fox players, but um does this signal like some worries? YarnYoshi, how do you feel about Leffen? There's kind of an apocryphal story that he used to be a Yoshi main. I think it's more accurate that he like dabbled in Yoshi at times. I don't think he ever
Yeah, it's
fully
one of my
made.
least favorite misconceptions about Leffen. He was
Okay,
never
yeah.
a true Yoshi main. He was very good and played Yoshi. Like don't get me wrong, but he was never like he never mained Yoshi. That wasn't really a thing. And I just think it's a way of like people pointing to someone who happens to play
Mm.
a lesser played character and still finding a way to give a commonly played character all the credit for it.
So I guess my question for you, Yarn Yoshi, is that do you like Leffen because he plays Yoshi, or do you dislike him because of the misconception that he used to main him?
I'm mostly a little indifferent toward him, but I will say
Indifferent.
that I did some research heading up to my podcast podcast appearance here, and one thing I noticed is that last week, two people on the show said that they thought Leffen would win. You
Mm.
said you thought Leffen would win.
It's
Zamu said
2 weeks
he
ago.
thought Leffen would win, and Ambi said he thought the winner of Leffen versus Plup would win, which I thought was a
Well,
very
gonna
might be
happen.
might be the most shameless bet hedging or whatever you call it that I've seen. But
Mm.
Leffen heading into this event, I feel like his stock was like very very high just because of how dominantly he had won Battle of BC. And I think for some of us like it was kind of hard to envision him like reaching that same kind of caliber performance that he had shown earlier. But
Eh,
like this is
yeah, we
Leffen's
had four
thing.
people on the show last week, and three people said he was gonna win. So I'm not
Yeah,
sure if
well,
I would
like
say it
I
was
think
hard to envision that.
Well, I'm saying like I think that I'm saying that like it still seemed very unlikely that like he could win an event, come back and reach that same caliber performance, which he clearly didn't. I think out of the top 8 seeds, I think he actually underperformed the most out of them. Is that other than like Plup who didn't show up, right? What do you get? 17.
Availability is the best ability, I always say. So
But I
I do
think
think it has to be
this kind
Plop.
of puts him in an interesting spot, especially with last weekend him dropping a set to Triff. Like he still won the tournament. I think Leffen like it can't take him that long to get back to contending for majors. It's just
Hmm.
with him, it's really about like if you can string together consistent victories, right? This has kind of been his struggle for the last what 6 years or so. He wins an event. He wins it in really dominant fashion. We all think he's going to win forever, and then it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, okay. First off, YarnYoshi, pleasure meeting you. You know, it's only been like half an hour that I've really gotten to know you. I do think you're wrong. This is revisionist history. I think that people they were not unfounded in thinking that he had a good chance at winning this, because when you look at it, all of these ideas that he was going to win were kind of based on stuff that we've already seen, and it was maybe underselling the things that we haven't seen, right?
Well,
Like
that's the thing, right? Like it totally understood. The things you hadn't seen were a lot because he didn't go to events for 5 months. Like saying that like the things that
4
were under
months.
that we didn't see, that's like a
There's a
lot of it,
pilot
right?
strike. He had COVID.
Yeah, like for five, but like even if it's not like
Or
necessarily
4
his
months. You said
fault,
5
it's
again.
still really high expectations.
Yeah. But I do think that the it's going to be interesting, because when you look at this, right, we're able to look at the highs that we've seen him have, beating Zayn, beating HBox,
Yeah,
um,
very looking so
and
dominant in those victories. When Leffen plays at that level, he looks like he's playing a different game than everyone else.
and YarnYoshi, you really cutting me off, aren't you? I know this is your first time on the podcast.
I'm just very nervous. I've been listening to the show for a while. I think,
It's like media celebrity.
yeah, kind of.
YarnYoshi, have you ever met a celebrity?
I'm friends with Edwin Budding. Does that count?
Sensei, you ever met a celebrity?
No, I get called Matt Damon a lot. Never met him.
Yeah, we're going to be doing that later in the show, by the way, calling you Matt Damon.
Oh, baby. I just
it
wanted to
is
say,
it's low hanging fruit.
I wanted to say a 2 cents here, just on the whole
Yes,
revisionist
please.
history thing. I just regarding the Leffen stuff, and I genuinely like. Let's say you swapped Moki and I around, or like maybe I wasn't even at this event and Moki
Yeah,
had the
yeah.
event that I had,
Mhm.
for example. I think what's frustrating is that like Moki's also someone who gets sort of put in this weird category of like underperformer who clearly has high peaks at times, where and maybe that's not such a weird category to put him in, but all I'm saying is that like I think the stars aligned for Leffen to lose really badly this time, and I
Yeah.
don't think it's as much that he didn't place. Like it's just like you said with the like DBFZ, maybe Smash Ultimate, like playing multiple games at the same time.
Mhm.
And I highly doubt Leffen hasn't touched Melee since Battle of BC. I mean, come on, I went to Gommel only a few weeks later, and I didn't go to anything since
Yeah.
then. So it's not. I'm not saying that Leffen played amazing. I will be the first one to tell you when we played our set, I felt great about how I was playing, and I felt like he felt really nervous and kind of shaky. Not necessarily the absolute demon I was expecting for the first time playing him in bracket.
Mhm.
But I do also think that like he absolutely got like shooting star. Someone preyed on him having a horrible sleep Saturday night, so he'd have the hardest chance versus Moki. And he did mention he was struggling in faster matchups, which
Mhm.
fair point. Coming back to Melee, that is one of the most difficult things to readjust to, is the speed of the game. But I don't know. I think it's really easy to lean into that narrative because everybody's saying that. But if you were actually there and played the guy, for what it's worth, insider info, I mean, not to put Cody or IBDW under the bus, they were playing friendlies to warm Leffen up for me. And then Cody after was like, "Oh shit, you beat Leffen?" He's like, "Oh, he was playing perfectly. Like he's good in friendlies."
Mhm.
Like there was no like, "Oh, Leffen looked like shit in friendlies." Like no surprise there. So I don't know. I do think the stars
Well, do
aligned.
you think he deserved the 4 seed?
I don't think he deserved the 4th seed, but
There's no need to get into that.
but did I was gonna say, did I deserve the 37th seed? Maybe, like, there's some thoughts when I went into the event where I was like, oh, I feel a little low too. But if you're gonna seed Leffen high, then seed me high, because I haven't been to stuff in a while either. Or if you're gonna seed him low, then fine, seed me low. But not to bring up the seeding discussion too much. I don't care that, like, it is what it is. But
It brought us beautiful
it
melee, so I
totally
want to
did.
let that be known.
Yeah, it was not.
Inaccurate seeding, even if it happens, is exciting. I want to make this clear.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Yeah.
that you
This is
also have to.
Thanks, YarnYoshi.
Thank you, YarnYoshi. No, I'll just leave it on that point and just say that, like, I already said it, but I really do think, because I have a lot of faith in Moki, especially in the Fox
Mhm.
Ditto. He's another one of those little freakos in the Fox Ditto that can just have such an insane performance and really shake people up. That I think that he was slated to do the same thing I was. He almost beat HBox to make top 8.
Yeah.
He could have easily gone on to then beat Fiction. Like his bracket looked great if he could
Mhm.
get past those hurdles. So I think Leffen just happened to run into two people playing hot and not be on his absolute A game, but he's still Leffen, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like I felt like I was playing against a pools match.
That's good.
Yeah.
I would hope that's the
Yeah,
case.
yeah, yeah.
So I guess I want to clarify this before I say anything. I have become a bit of a Leffen stan. I'm sure the people who have watched this, they've seen just the Leffen stan. Wasn't always the case. But in the past, I don't even know how long. I just kind of transform into a Leffen stand. So whatever I'm saying, maybe you will disregard because I want him to win. But I do think that the way that we look at his performances tend to be accepting the best of them and maybe not questioning what we haven't seen and not questioning the things that we've seen him lose. So when he has kind of two lesser performances in Pound and Summit before dominating Battle of BC, I think a lot of his fans and a lot of the people who think that he can play really well look at the Battle of BC, and maybe this is not the case, right? Maybe we are learning to accept that um, it's not a linear thing. Leffen doing well doesn't start at bad and then just goes up to good. Maybe we are learning that in 2022, it's going to be a little bit of a rocky path. So is he washed? The question that we've all gathered here to answer. I think it's pretty definitively no. And that being said, I think that he is out of the big eight, which I guess we're calling them. I think that he's eighth. And if you had to do a seating, if you had to do a ranking,
I think we should call them the Epic
um,
8.
yeah, thank you, YarnYoshi. The Epic Eight, I would put him eighth. But that being said, the matchups that we look at when we predict that he's going to win stuff, I think are things that still hold true. I think he still is very good versus Marth. I think he would still do really well versus Zane. I think he's going to do well versus HBox if they play. Maybe a little scarier than it was before, but I still think he has the ability to do that. And yeah, I mean, if you want to cite the Lod loss or the Triff loss, I think you also have to cite the run back in losers finals, which was a 3-0 on Leffen's end, I believe. So I guess the point here is that I think what we did before was that we looked at the things that he won and didn't worry about the things that he didn't play, right? He didn't play Mango, he didn't play Plup, he didn't play Cody, and that was something that maybe people should take into account. I think that there's a lot of things that are going to take a little bit to get him back into that shape. He definitely is in a situation right now because of COVID, because of flight strikes where he missed a lot of tournaments, and also uh, without going too much into it, if I were in his situation, I would probably not be running to go back to a Melee tournament. But what he did was not only attend back-to-back Melee tournaments and is going to a third in a row, he went to 5 tournaments in a row, or he's planning on 5 tournaments in a row, 2 for Guilty Gear. So he went to from Sweden, where he lives. He went to Orlando. He went to France. Goes to Big House in Detroit. Goes to Netherlands. Is going to go to Vegas. I think is staying on the West Coast for the next week, and then is going to Summit again, which is just an insane thing. And it's not necessarily Johnny. It's just understanding the context of what this was. I don't think that someone who stopped going to tournaments for 4 months, stopped going to Melee tournaments, I guess, for 4 months, has the conditioning of going to back to back to back to back events, all in different continents, basically. So I guess I will say I am Johnning for him a little bit, but I think that what we have learned through these past things is context, and I still think that he is able to do well in the matchups that he's had before. But maybe it's these things where we see him versus Moki, or we see him versus Cody, or we see him versus like if he plays maybe if he plays faster matchups like Pikachu or Falco, maybe they come from things that we don't have to worry about to starting to worry a little bit, which hey, the landscape that we're in with tournaments right now, I think that he can still win a tournament, and I think that he can also still lose to like Null or whatever. I think that's
I
just
think
where we're at.
I think like to that exact point, maybe the trend that is emerging on Leffen's part is less of a his skill in matchups where Fox clearly should be the winner has
Mhm.
deteriorated or like the field is catching up to him. It's not like none of that seems to be the case. But in the event of like the Fox Ditto, people have gotten a lot better at that matchup.
Yeah.
And like it's always a scary matchup. People joke about Fox Dittos just being an absolute chaotic piece of garbage to play sometimes. And so him falling victim to that doesn't really surprise me that much. Because even if you look at like, I don't know, maybe another ambiguous matchup, which is Fox Marth, it's hotly debated for
Mhm.
years. He plays Sheik for that now. And it's like I think a byproduct of everybody getting so good at the game is that it's not that Leffen's gotten worse by any stretch, and like ton of respect, like you said. I can't imagine traveling that much for melee. Um, Granted, he's found a ton of success with it, so maybe the factors change when he knows he's got such like an established fan base and people
Mhm.
would really want to see him do well. But yeah, the matchup thing I think is an interesting thing to consider. I think the Fox Ditto might end up being a bit of a thorn in his side for some time, unless he really spends a significant amount of time grinding it or decides to play something else into that matchup, which would be weird to see.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know when you have people like Moki, who's just or myself even, but like we'll stick with like Moki as like a more consistent high tier player. He is such an outstanding in the Fox Ditto in a lot of matchups. But if you run into someone who would like be considered a Fox Ditto specialist, like I would seriously question not just Leffen's chances, but like anybody just with how that
Yeah.
matchup plays out. I don't think anybody's safe if I had to say that. I really
Moki has
don't.
a win on Cody earlier in the
Yeah.
year.
And Cody and Moki have both beaten Leffen at
Yeah.
whatever it was Shine, like it's
Shine.
not
Shine
if
2019.
there was a matchup I didn't think Leffen was like untouchable in, it was the Fox
Mhm.
Ditto, and not because he's not incredible, but just because that's the nature of that matchup. It's really volatile.
Yeah, want to know something really funny,
Oh yeah.
Sensei? I had a similar thought like this all the way at Battle of BC because Josh Man was supposed to play
Mhm.
Leffen, and this really goes into the chaos of the matchup because when they played, I thought it would be close. I thought Josh Man had a
Poor
chance of
Josh, man.
upsetting
I know
him,
what he's about to catch. Biggest four stock
and then
strike on
not
FD of
only did
all
he lose the
time.
first game, yeah, and he got 8 stocked and
Oh
lose
yeah.
2 and 3.
Oh fuck. He could not just
And
a
at the
four
end of
stock.
those games, I thought, wow, Leffen is not dropping a set the
Yeah.
rest of the tournament.
Yeah.
So, maybe it's like it kind of goes back to what you said about the Fox though, because Josh Man immediately recovered from that and went on to defeat Moki and
Mhm.
IBDW at his like
Yep.
next big
I
event.
just think the matchup's inherently chaotic. And if you asked a lot of Fox players, unless you are like, in fact, I think it's just an ebb and flow. A lot of Fox players will love the matchup for a bit, and then they'll go into a dark cycle of hating it, and so on and so forth. So I don't know. I just like I said, maybe the whole point about stars aligning is just that he had to play the Fox Ditto specifically, and that
Yeah.
really shot himself in. Well, he didn't shoot himself in the foot. Just how the bracket played out is what did him in. Because let's just say in a world he doesn't play Moki, he plays I don't know, like Axe first into H box first into maybe Polish, and maybe Moki just doesn't exist in that side of the bracket. Total
Maybe
pointless
Moki was never
hypothetical.
born.
Yeah, maybe Moki was never born. In fact, yeah, maybe Moki was born somewhere else and never got a chance to play melee.
Oh,
But
imagine.
I think Leffen, like that's the world where Leffen makes top 8 on just his
Mhm.
Fox merit alone, and then runs into Zayn and gets to play as Sheik. Um, so yeah, I think there might be more there to the Fox Ditto to unpack with Leffen.
For
Yeah,
right
I
now,
just feel like
yeah.
oh sorry, go on.
Wow, YarnYoshi, thank you so much for deferring
He's
to me.
really polite.
For
Yeah,
for right now, yeah, you are really polite actually. um, Now you got on my nerves a little bit, but you got back to polite. I'm Team YarnYoshi. Um, for right now, I think it's fair to look at him kind of how we view Plup. Plup right now, I think is someone who's very strong. We just obviously have not been able to see him attend a lot. But I think for the past few years, the way that probably like is easiest to view Plup is someone who could win any event they go to or could get ninth or 13th or stuff, right? Plup has been someone who is very wishy-washy in terms of just like how much it seems like he is actually putting into it. And while I think that the input of Leffen and Plups, what they've input into that, I think the output tends to be the same right now. So, like, yeah, we are seeing a Leffen that is a little on the lower side of what we'd expect. I think we could see a Leffen on the higher side of that at any point. And we're seeing Plup on probably one of the higher sides that we expect to see from him when he actually goes to stuff. Uh, So yeah, it's interesting to see. Maybe Leffen's not this type of person who's got a bulletproof case at always being consistent. But this is Melee right now. This is the world that we live in, where Zayn has lost to like how many different people at how many different tournaments. I'm not about to say that Leffen is completely washed. I think that the tournament performances that he's had are pretty few and far between, and because of he's only been able to really find continued success at one of them, I think that he deserves to be kind of viewed as the lower end of that top eight. But I think that it could change. I'm not willing to say that it's going to be like this for the end of the year. We're going to be seeing Leffen, who is like the Leffen at Summit's going to have beat in the same time zone for like 3 straight weeks. I'm not about to say he's completely washed. YarnYoshi, what are your editing thoughts on this segment?
Well, I think that we know what he can do, and we're very
Hmm.
confident in it, right? We know he can beat Zayn, or that he's got a very good shot when he plays him, right? And that has to count for something. And until Hungrybox shows otherwise, we know that we have to assume that he's just going to destroy him, right? Like there's no reason to think that that will go the way until Hungrybox shows it. And I think those two things on their own are very very valuable. I'm what I'm really curious about, I think, like as far as like historical matchups go, is I really want to see how him and Mango develop, because I remember, like it was yesterday, that he and Mango used to be considered back and forth, if not like there was a
Hmm.
period of time where Leffen was just beating Mango over and over again. And I really just want to see them play more sets against each other, because I think like lately, whenever they've played in the last few years, far in between or far and few, but like wherever they've played, Mango's actually kind of had his number more often than not in terms of like serious offline sets. And I never feel like it should be that way. I always feel like they should, maybe it's because of when I got into the scene. I always feel like they should go way more back and forth than they have and necessarily in recent times. But like those recent times I'm talking about, it's a span of time when their sets kind of like carry less weight the more they go forward.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of interested in, like as far as the matchups that we haven't seen Leffen in this year. Leffen versus Mango is one that I'm really fascinated about, and one that maybe it happens at the Ludwig event with with maybe it happens as I believe is projected. I'm not really sure, but I hope it
Could be
does.
possible, yeah. And well, the thing with the Ludwig event is that this is Swiss. So we're actually going to be seeing a lot of different things, and it's going to be really hard to predict what's actually going to happen. I think a pure seeding's probably not going to just be indicative of what's going to end up in bracket. And because of this, we're gonna get to see probably Leffen play a bunch of people who we might not have seen him play. The Plup matchup that he was supposed to play at Big House would have been the first time they played in tournament since I think Smash and Splash 5 in like June 2019. He hasn't played Mango in forever, right? He hasn't played Cody in forever. Yeah, I think that like as much as we talk about him and we kind of like look at the things that he's done really well, I think that this is going to be a hard tournament for him regardless. But I want to see him play more. And Sunse, I'm excited to see you there. LCQ.
I know. I honestly, I I wish the big house happened earlier so there was a
Yeah.
universe where I didn't have to do the goddamn LCQ because it looks so hard. Yeah, it'll be a sick event and I'm stoked to be there. But can't tell me you didn't look at that last chance qualifier and think, holy shit, there is what is it? Because it's 64 players. That's
Yeah.
56 amazing people are going to have like a shitty weekend. Well, it's Vegas, so it'll be good. But 56 people are not going to go on to play those Swiss pools and be proud of themselves. They are going to drown in pools before they get to play the main event.
Well, we are going to have people who honestly could make top 100 and go 0-2 at this event. That's how insane this is. You could see someone like Soof, I think is possible to go 0-2. He could lose like I forget who it is. Maybe like CPU 0 or something, someone around there. But like this LCQ is not only insane on its own. Like what would be an insane regional, right? This would be an incredibly strong regional. It then feeds into what we talked about with Big House. Big people said that Big House is one of the most stacked tournaments of all time. Just run it back 2 weeks later, because this again, missing Plop is still one of the most stacked tournaments of all time, maybe of recent time at the very least. So yeah, your your reward for getting through the trenches of some of the most some of the best players from around the world, because we are going to see Spud and Solo Battle and Frenzy and all these
Frenzy,
people.
yeah.
Triff. Your reward for getting through that is to play probably some of the hardest pools that have ever existed. But
Uh,
I think it should be good. I'm looking forward to this a lot. We are going to have so much to talk about here, and we're about halfway through the show. YarnYoshi's still here, huh? I didn't. YarnYoshi, I gotta admit, I didn't think you'd last halfway through the show.
No, I was really excited to be on. So,
Okay,
and I
I
appreciate
thought
you
like
guys.
Edwin would feel better at some point, and like no, you don't think he's gonna be feeling better at any point? No,
No, he's kind of in bed. I think he's in chat right now,
he's in
actually, but
chat.
I'm
Okay,
not really sure.
because you
Poor
said you are
Edwin.
staying at his house, so like there's no situation where he just kind of comes downstairs halfway through the episode. Okay,
No,
so
basically
you're
not.
staying on for the entire
This.
episode.
Yeah, this is a what you see, what you get
All
kind of
right.
deal.
Okay, but we're
No.
what the LCQ?
Yeah. No. We're on to the LCQ, baby.
We're gonna talk a lot about who is able to win. We're gonna talk about the group stages probably. So maybe not able to dwell a lot on the LCQ, but yeah, if there's any names you want to pick out, Yarn Yoshi, are there Yarn Yoshi, are there any Yoshis in the bracket that you've had your eye on? I'm not sure if there's any Yoshis at all, actually.
Yeah, unless you want to count Amsa in the final one, I don't think there's any other
Yeah.
ones.
Who do you think has the best Yoshi of the people in the LCQ?
For some reason, I feel like Solo Battle has a really good
Huh.
Yoshi. Just completely, total gut feeling. Not really sure.
Well, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that's I maybe would not say Soul Battle's a great Yoshi. I don't know, but I think that is a great person to pick out. Like this is Soul Battle's first North American event, sponsored by Melee Stats. Uh, and you know that's like this is the type of player that you're going to be seeing at the Ludwig Smash Invitational. Someone who really just impossible to understand how they're going to be doing. Um, like the level performances that he did in Europe last year made him probably top 5 in Europe, maybe top 10. Um, and yeah, like the whether or not we're going to be seeing something like this, I think is part of the beauty of the Ludwig Smash Invitational. I would pick out dude, you know what? Like all of these people here seem so tough. I think Solo Battle, I think, is a great pick. You're right there. Triff, one of the best players in the world, in my mind. I think he's going to have a pretty good shot at making it pretty far. Um, I would really love to see Spud too well. Like it's so hard to pick people because I'm looking through it. I'm like, oh, Logan, we haven't seen him in forever. He might do well. Franz just had a really good run. Does Franz do well? And like all of these people, it's so hard. Ralph, your summit friend, Sensei, Ralph is in here. It's
I
so impossible to
know.
pick only like one or two people who we think are going to do well. Because this is just like this is the aperitif. It's a little appetizer before the main course, and yet it's still one of the hardest brackets that I've
As
seen.
as far as like talent pool goes, for like this is basically a giant smorgasbord of all the players that could ever be future top 10 or
Yeah,
something. Like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
that's what's crazy to me about this is I'm like, there are some people in here who have been cusp top 10 at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some people who have been on that come up. There are some hidden bosses that just never really got that shot all the time. Like my boy Quaff, I mentioned earlier. Aiden
Yeah.
reached out to him, got him to come out. Quaff is insanely good. To be honest, if my sleeper picks, I am a gigantic Eddie Mexico fan.
Ooh.
Eddie, if I ever play against Eddie, I am, and also I saw a head shake. Wait, Yarn, are you thumbs up or thumbs down on Eddie?
No, definitely thumbs up.
Okay.
This has been the one
Okay.
of the low key storylines of this year has been the rise of Eddie Mexico. I still can't. I still think about him beating S2J at Smash Factor all the time.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm
Think
not
about it all the
kidding.
time. Huh.
I played him at Battle of BC, and I mean, I'm glad I had a great rest of the tournament because there was no way I was beating Eddie. That guy, I've beaten him before. I've beaten him before. I'm not saying it's impossible, but my God, that guy is just like he is such a inspiration for of stronger mindset, have a good time with melee, and just practice hard and show up to events. Like that guy is the epitome of hard work. He is, yeah. I have so many good things to say about Eddie. Obviously, I think everybody does. if I had to make a call, like it sucks that he would have to play what looks like Keizu pretty soon into the bracket, like round 2. Um, but he'd be kind of my sleeper pick because if he ends up playing, let's say Keizu, and he gets through that into Bobby, then he might have like again another peach, I guess, through Polish. It might be brutal for Eddie. I don't know, but my heart just says Eddie shows up and he plays really well, like every time he goes to stuff. So I would not sleep on him specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude,
Yeah,
it's
I
so
would say
tough.
out of the, you know,
Who
Yarn.
goes?
Did YarnYoshi?
no, you can go. I'm sorry.
What? No, I just said, dude, that's so tough. Just a little interjection. It's okay, YarnYoshi. It's tough to be on a podcast, especially your first time. Oh no, are you crying? Oh no.
You know what? I'll let him wallow. I got more names.
Yeah,
The more I'm
go
looking
ahead.
through this, I gotta. The main reason I was going to say this, and I mean, not to be a stick in the mud, I honestly think that the LCQ is really exciting compared to the, because like, how many times have you guys done this podcast before majors and talked about the same goddamn 8 people and how well they're going to do at a major? Be real.
A lot, and we're going to do it later today.
And I think it's awesome. I'm not shitting on that at all. I just think there's so many cool.
Yeah.
I think there's so many cool storylines about all these grinders that have like not had the limelight on them pretty much all of 2022. No matter how many random good results they put in, there's never something that like elevates them to that next level of melee
Mm-hmm.
stardom, we'll say. Um, and the more I'm looking through this list, like, yeah, I know there's the Spuds, but like Justice from Texas, absolutely sick Fox. Someone who I've wanted to see do well for a long time, been a super homie. And even going through, I don't Geo. I'd really want to see Null do better because he kind of blew it at Big House, and I know he's way better than what he got to show off. So even him, I'd love to see step it up. And then, like he said, solo battle.
Yeah.
Solo battle, someone who's just like, I know you guys. Okay, I guess you guys are huge solo battle shills because he's sponsored for the
like
event.
him. Yeah.
But he's so good. Every time I see solo battle play, I'm like, damn, like I get it. I get the melee stats. The call for him to go to this event, he's someone that could just like go all the way and make top 8 and get into the main event. I could see it 100%.
He's definitely one to see. He's got a pretty interesting path. So his round 1. Yeah, I mean, like, we usually don't talk about round 1s. We might as well. Get a War Machine. Good player. Like, that's not necessarily a foregone conclusion. But face roll, that is a, like, if you were to serve solo battle something up on a platter, face roll might unfortunately be the one. Griffin, I love you, man. But like that, just the matchup, the way that solo battle, like, have you ever seen HBox? Like, everyone goes, oh, because they think that HBox is going to hit the reaction tech chase rest, and he never does. Solo battle hits him. CPU 0 hits this. Like, the way that matchup can be played is just so punishingly cruel. And when you have someone like Face Roll who's not incredibly on the grind, right? Like that really is scary for all the Face Roll fans out there. So that could be solo battle. I don't really actually, you know
Into
what?
Salt?
Salt is extremely good. Salt is someone who I think, when I saw the top 50 this year, I was like, this is probably one of the more just like, whatever, like, skill, right? People say skill. In terms of like people who jumped into the melee rankings this past year, I think Salt is one of the better ones and one of the ones that we can see stick around. And that being said, Salt's got some drop sets to puff, some SDJ sets, some Palpa sets.
If I were a betting man, I would almost say this is rigged. This is crazy good for solo battle. As far because Salt's amazing. I want to say that I'm pretty sure someone rubbed a genie lamp like last year during like online COVID era and was just like, please make me a sick Falcon that can just win a bunch of shit. And Salt appeared, and I played him one time at a TMT, and I was like, where did you come from? He's like, this guy's so good, so good.
They're so good with Falcon. They're so good with Falco.
Yeah,
I'm sure. I think I've seen their Fox or something. I don't know. Just like an insanely good player, and yet I kind of might think Solo Battle might take that. Which, if he does, insanely somehow plays Triff. Jesus. Yeah. No. This like.
This is a solo battle bracket.
That might be the pick, honestly. But like, that being said, we're talking
that's
about
not to sleep on Salt.
We're talking about Salt. We're talking about Triff. honestly, Noel before Triff, or like all these people could do so much. Yeah, I think it's like impossible to pick anyone who's like
Etos.
for sure gonna make it. Yeah, I think maybe. Do you think Etos is gonna make top 8 here? He's gonna get a slot in groups.
Uh, I think it's definitely one of the matches to watch. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
cool. Have any? I'm willing to put money on it if you are.
Oh, yeah. So you're betting on Etos? Because I mean, I know Triff's the underdog here. I would take it for sure.
Actually, I would be betting on Triff in this scenario. I'm a little crazy.
Oh, that's so crazy. Because like I was gonna bet on
Yeah.
Triff because I thought you had Etos. Because
No, yeah. I mean, you can have Etos. I'll let you do it.
are
I'll
you
just trust.
sure? Are you sure? All
Yeah.
right.
Hey, it's Vegas, man. Right?
I will
I'll let
put
you take
10
the
on
favorite.
Etos. I will put 10 on Etos.
Cool.
And
Like 100 to 1 odds, I guess. Right?
well, yeah, I mean, give you what, like a 10-cent payout if Triff wins, because it's really unlikely, I know.
Yeah. True.
Um, but yeah, no, I know so many upsets could happen, but realistically, like solo battle, I don't want to put too much pressure on them either to say, like this is the expectation, because that can suck. Also, you're coming out of region, first big tournament that
Mhm.
really matters. That can also just cause some serious chokies. So with respect to how competition goes, but if there was going to be a bracket that I think solo battle could do it in, I would give it. I almost think it's decided by solo battle or Salt, because I see Salt beating
Yeah.
Triff. I really do. I see a world where Salt beats Triff, and I see a world where solo battle beats Triff. So I kind of think that side of the bracket, or that portion of the bracket, gets decided by that match more, in my opinion, than any of the other matchups.
YarnYoshi, before we go into group stages, is there anyone who you want to shout out for maybe making a run here?
Yes, so there's two potential options here, right? And it's really tempting to pick all the the new school players and the up and coming grinders, but I actually want to shout out Smashbox
Yeah.
Gatsu, who randomly had a very big run at Big House, and I kind of wonder if there's a chance of that happening again here. I'm pretty excited for Gatsu versus
Yeah.
Lunadusk in particular. I could not tell you how that would turn up, and I'm also excited to see Shroomed come back. I think Shroom versus Salt is actually projected right now, and the last time they played, granted it was online, I think Shroomed actually ended up taking that. So I'd be interested to see how the run back goes. This is an all time great player
Hmm.
who hasn't necessarily been the most active or try hard this year, but it is still Shroomed. It's good to see him at an
Yeah.
event.
We've
So
seen him come
see
out
how
of
that
nowhere
goes.
and do really well. Obviously,
That is the Dewan 100%.
what,
That is
what
him
was it?
to a T.
Was it Genesis 7? What did he just like? He just top 8 it, right? He just top 8 some random one, got into Summit. So yeah, I mean, you're talking about another big event where he could randomly come back and qualify for a huge bracket. Yeah, why not? That sounds like something he could do. I think that's a great pick. Gatsu, I think, is a great pick. I mean, honestly, there's no bad picks here for the most part. I will say I want to take somewhat credit for Gatsu's performance at the big house, because I saw him. He said, "Hey," I said, "Hey." I was like, "Yeah, man, I saw that you're on Smashbox now." And he's like, "Yeah, I've been doing it a little bit." And I was like, "Yeah, I saw your set versus West Balls." I was like, "You destroyed him." And he was like, "Well, I'm glad that's the only one you saw." This was me being the most couth person in Melee. I saw all those sets. I think he's like 3. He's like 1-3 with West Balls since he's switched to the Smashbox. Those other sets weren't that pretty, but he won one. And I made sure to bring that up. And I think that gave him, it imbued him with confidence that made him go on to one of the weirder, runs that we've ever seen, like beating
Yeah, he beat
Ginger.
Ginger, right? Yeah.
I forget who else he beat in losers. He had a good losers run, but he ended up losing to SFAT in winners, which honestly looked like a pools match. That's not shade, because Gatsu did well. Gatsu got 17th. It just unfortunately looked really bad. And then I think, did he lose to? No, he beat Ducks Sheik, right?
Yep.
After
Oh.
Ducks Sheik beat Kalamazoo, who almost didn't make top 64 because Keizu almost lost to Kwang's Donkey Kong. Okay, there's too much into this.
That's a rabbit hole. I've kind of heard some bitching about the Smashbox too. I don't know what to make of that. Not to open that can of worms.
Well,
Um,
Ambasinister's not here, who is the guy to talk to on this. But from what I've heard, anecdotal evidence, I believe that the Smashbox is the most broken. It's also just the one that has maybe not been marketing itself well enough to
Yep.
Smashers for them to actually buy it. Yoshi, do you what are your thoughts on the box
I
as a
basically don't.
concept?
I
Rectangles,
don't
I
think
think you
much of
call
it,
them.
but it's very fascinating because the thing with Gatsu is that like he did enter tournaments. It's not like he didn't do anything. It's more like he didn't go to many big like offline events, but he'd enter TMTs and get like 9th or 13th, right? So it's not like we didn't see anything from him. It's like we saw a bunch and we just assumed it was kind of like a transition period, and then he just randomly came back and beat Ginger and Duck. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess this is Gatsu.
Yeah, he just sandbagged only to play Michigan and then destroy them and then play bad again and then be like, no, no, the box is fine. I don't know. That's weird. Yeah, definitely weird. I just brought that up because, like you said, I had heard the similar sentiment echoed that it was like in terms of bullshit, there was like Smashbox, then Frame One, and then Box as far as like what nerfs were applied and what was fair or in place, I guess, or air quotes fair. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Cool to see him do well, and to that, I wasn't. That's not me saying he could never do well or get those wins otherwise, not even in the slightest. It was just so weird that you would like you said, the pools match of SFAT and Gatsu by comparison to him then beating Ginger. I don't know what the hell is going on. This is a weird. He had a bizarro bracket. He really did.
But we'll see. We'll see because he's got a weird bracket here too, right? I mean, Lunar Dusk, Josh, Broken Arm Josh, man, if he makes it there, like there's a lot going on here.
Broken arm Joshi. Oof.
Regardless, whoever ends up making these 8 slots, I think is going to. I think anyone here who's got a chance is going to be really interesting in pools. So the way that Swiss works is that we don't really know what's going to happen. It all depends on who wins, which is a concept that I think people have toyed around with a little bit in Smash, but obviously we've seen in different esports. But yeah, I believe that the way that this is going to be working is that you are going to be, if you win 3 sets, you've qualified for top 16. If you lose 3 sets, you're out. People who go 2-1 play. People who go 2-1, like it's this really interesting concept, which is going to lead us to a lot of great matches, and it's the type of thing to expect when you give Aiden the keys to the kingdom. Which, for people like me, people who watched the quad stream on Tuck House of Don't Park, I'm very excited for this and very excited for the return of the quad stream from what I've heard. Yeah, but like, okay, so let's look at the groups. We don't really know the matches, and the matches that are going to be happening after groups, or after round one of Swiss, completely go up to the groups. It's about what happens. But just looking at the players here, do we have any thoughts on who's able to make like a breakout or really strong run? Because they are. I mean, we talked about the LCQ. This is like the true murderers row. It's like every good player possible's in here. Um, what do you think? YarnYoshi, you've been a little quiet. You've got Amsa in these pools. 3rd seed overall. Does that make you happy?
Yeah, I would say it's adequate. I think I would prefer him be the number 1 seed, obviously, because he won the
Okay.
last 2 majors. I
Okay. Well, I
appreciate
don't really think that. I don't know if one was a major,
the off season is a major. It had $25,000.
but no, I don't think money. Okay.
Also won it, so I'm considering it a major.
All right. So he won one major and he won another tournament. So he should be okay. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you think it's adequate. How do you think he's going to do at this event?
I'm pretty interested to see how he'll do. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's actually got like 3 or 4, maybe even like 5 very difficult opponents in his pool. I don't think he's gonna go up against all of them, but in particular, 2 matchups I really want to see him in are against Moki and Lod actually right now.
Yeah.
Moki especially because like even the first set they played, I think Amsa won like 3-1 or something. There was a lot of hype coming up in that set from people behind the scenes and everything, right? Like I think it was talked about a lot on both Moki stream and Amsa stream that both of them really wanted to play each other because they thought they were the best in the world at the matchup. And when they ended up playing, obviously Amsa took the first set, but the second one was like very decisive in Moki's favor. So I don't really know how that's going to trend moving forward. And I'm excited to see him hopefully play against Lot again because I remember back in the day when when Lod beat him, people were saying that Lod was even harder than Armada, that Amsa was just never going to beat Peach. And now we've seen Amsa beat Lod. So, is that a matchup we can finally give Amsa his due credit and say that he's favored against Lodin? Or is Lod going to beat him and we suddenly have to start worrying if that's not a guaranteed path for him again? So those would be two opponents that I'm especially really curious to see how Amsa does moving forward, because I think those two, if you asked like a year ago, maybe they're some of his hardest.
Yeah. I think that this is going to be it's not a make or break event for AMSA, but I do think it's going to be a hard one. You mentioned Moki. These British Commonwealth Foxes, man. I guess they're not the Queen's Foxes anymore, but you, Sunsei, Josh
King's
Man,
Foxes
Moki.
sounds way cooler. I'm not gonna lie. So I mean, rip to Big Liz, but come on, King's
Yeah.
Foxes. Oof.
King's Foxes doesn't sound too bad. Yeah, I mean they are trouble for AMSA. I mean we've seen Moki take sets. We've seen Josh Man take one. Maybe we're gonna be seeing Sunsei take one soon. Who knows? But yeah, I think that's a good
Hopefully.
pick. I believe. I'm a believer. Sunsei, what about you? When you look at these, I can link. Well, I tweeted.
I got him. I got him.
Okay.
So I honestly, I mean, I forgot to ask if this stream is considered super PG because I didn't want to swear too much, but
well, what do you know? If you're gonna say slur, don't say that.
no, yeah. Hey guys, gonna say slurs? Is that cool? No, not my look. I think that Spark and Crudo, as the respective sheiks in their pools, are going to shit on some fast fallers, and
Yeah.
I think that like if I literally were to look at this right now, I think Spark beats Magi. I think Spark has a really good shot at beating None. I think Spark beats Wizzy. I think Spark has the shot to beat like even like Lod or like maybe not the Foxes. Fine, maybe if they're feeling good on that day, but I would not be shocked to see Spark do super well. And then on Crudo's side, it's even more of a bloodbath. I would not be shocked to see Crudo beat Lucky, Ginger, Johnny, Mango, even depending, Pipsqueak, Axe, Fiction, Kadoran. Like the only real write-offs for him, in my opinion, for that pool are like maybe Zane, maybe H-Box, and I didn't include Ackle on that list just because I know he has a special penchant for staying the hell away from people who can grab him. So that's why I didn't include Ackle. So, but yeah, I would not be shocked to see, because I know Crudo's been like one of those players that's been on the cusp, in my opinion, of like the top 50 and top 25 and that got invited here. Kind of a weird one who I haven't seen make like humongous waves yet, has a ton of upsets under the belt, just maybe not in the collective Melee conscience yet. I don't know. So Crudo and Spark would be my picks. I really don't love Sheik. I'll be the first to admit it. But when I look at that pool, I can't help but feel that they would do really well in both those pools.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Akla, I think is pretty insane, right?
Yeah.
Akla is someone who I had pretty high on my top 100 or top 50 ballot, just because if there's any year where it's like chill, if you don't enter a lot, I think the ratings that we did from March 1st to July 11th, I think, are the ones where it's okay if you're not attending a ton. Because I think that he's like really good in a lot of matchups. I think he is. So I believe he's got Kadoran here as his round one, and being 1-0 versus being 0-1 in Swiss, could lead to some interesting matchups. Like, he's played Kadoran before at Smash Summit 11. I think it all comes down to whether or not he's gotten better, because the way that he plays, I think, is really good. He's got that stupid link. He's got that horrible dumbass link, which unfortunately might be something that like could turn the tides of something like this. It's like it's his skill in Fox Marth that is going to win it, of course, but it's that dumbass link that could just be the X factor. What do you think of his link? Sunsei?
I think you've nailed it on the head when you said his dumbass link. It's not bad. It's not anything that I would be disrespectful of. Like, obviously he's taken the time to sink into the character, but yeah, I can't help but look at it and call it anything other than his dumbass link. It's hilarious, and like you said, like he's beaten Magi, I think, with that link, like just the link. For example, like if he gets a chance to play in like because like the pools do mix eventually, right? They don't. They like you said, it's like with the Swiss pools format, and I'm like they'll meet in top 16 if they make it through to that. But okay, yeah, that's like classic Melee player not understanding Swiss pools right there. But okay, but regardless, yeah, I could see Aklo's Link doing some damage on a random FD game here and there versus some fast fallers. I wouldn't expect it to work consistently. If I'm being honest, though, Melee players kind of sleep on stuff sometimes. So I wouldn't be surprised if nobody's practiced for it and it does have some space to really shine against some people. Yeah, I don't know, but it is the dumbass Link for sure.
It is. Here's something that's interesting when it comes to Aklo, though, is so we look at this set, right? Kudorian versus Aklo. I don't know. It honestly could come down to that dumbass Link. But the implications that set has is like pretty big. So let's say Aklo wins that. That means that we have Hungrybox Aklo.
Oh baby.
Which if anyone's been following online, that has been a long-standing epic. It's not even a rivalry. It's just like we have seen all different sorts. I think we've seen, God, we might have seen like the fucking Young Link or whatever versus the Puff, but we've seen everything. And for a while he was struggling, and then he eventually became someone who was able to take sets online. And I think that where we're at recently is they had a game 15, game 14 grand finals, I think most recently, which ended with Hungrybox camping for a timeout while he was down in percent. So whatever happens is going to be interesting.
Dude, if Aklo and HBox were like, if you're a reincarnation person, those two players would get reincarnated in another life to piss each other off the exact same way in a completely different thing. Like I'm calling it. I just seeing the sets between those two, the amount of times HBox has said like some variation of "Don't taunt me, bitch," and those guys, I don't know, something about that's really funny to me. So I do hope they play. And yeah, the timeout situation was hilarious. I was like, wait, was HBox like ledge grab limiting or something? There was some secret thing he was aware of, and it was like, nope, he just saw the numbers wrong, just reading problem, literally reading skill gap. He just better reader wins. Yeah, I don't know.
Really quickly, we can take a look at some of these pools just because we know who's in the pools, so that gives us a head start as to what's going to happen, and then we'll obviously move on to who we think is going to end up winning. You know what, YarnYoshi, I'm going to ask you in 1 second, but I'm gonna before I do that, I'm gonna to say I think Melee Stats Pipsqueak has a pretty decent shot at something here. He's got Ginger, who I think he could beat Ginger. Ginger, obviously someone who has like a really high floor, but has had some moments where it does not look great. Gatsu, Box Gatsu. He's lost to Skurzo this year. Like he has lost to people who I think are within Pip's skill range. And Pipsqueak to me as a player who I think tends to be pretty well rounded, like we talked about earlier. I think that his with hey, talk about dumbass characters. He's got a dumbass Falcon for Marth, so he's able to kind of play more like an even keel Fox style versus every other character. And I mean, obviously, you two had a really close set, so I want to hear your feelings on that. But I think he's someone who could end up making waves here. I want to see how he does because his trajectory throughout like this year has been coming to an event, losing to someone who's seated a lot lower than him, Mad Tyro on his first trip, and then Dark Hero on his second trip, and then honestly bringing it back through losers, and then going to a tournament right after and doing really well. So we are going to see him. This is his first tournament in America for this trip. I think he's continuing to. I think he's going to stay until Summit. So maybe we'll see that happen again. But in a Swiss format, it's not going to be double elimination like just like that. Maybe we get to see the losers bracket. Pipsqueak runs it back and he stays in. Who knows? YarnYoshi, what do you think
about Pipsqueak, or just in general who I'm looking out for?
Take it however you see fit.
Sure.
I'm giving you the ball. You can run with it however you want.
Well, in my language, you'd say you're giving me the egg, but Yeah. All right. So I think one
We
thing,
got Edwin
one
back.
person
Just kidding.
so I think one person that I'm really excited to see back here. Obviously, like we can go through the top 10 with Wizards coming back and everything. I think sometimes with really big events like these, what you'll find a lot is that like players who slump or have been slumping for a little bit, like kind of just like relative to expectations, kind of come back and remind everyone like why they were really highly regarded. Like we saw this with Axe at SmashCon and Shine, sort of like you know Axe had a maybe a lower like a rank that was deserving of his results, but maybe not a rank like indicative of like his skill, right? And I think very similarly, I think we're going to see a comeback performance from Nunn. I feel like this is someone who not too long ago we were talking about as the best active Captain Falcon, and we haven't really seen the results come through since the summer or so. And I feel like some of it's been tough brackets. I feel like some of it is motivational issues just based on what he talked about on his stream and just sort of like the events not kind of going his way, for lack of a better way to put it. And I feel like in this kind of format where he knows his opponent's coming up ahead, where like it's Swiss, but it's kind of within a limited pool. It wouldn't surprise me to see Nunn take some names here and kind of remind everyone why they considered him top 10 for the summer, and what kind of potential he has moving forward. So I'm really interested to see how Nunn's been doing, if only because I feel like people are starting to sleep on him, and he's been in a similar position before, slumping and then coming back and getting like ninth at a major or something. So I'm really interested to see Nunn. That's another guy who, by the way, I'm scared for Amsa if they play. I think Amsa will take it, but I think Nunn is one of his trickier opponents for sure.
Yeah, that's fair.
YarnYoshi, ready for this?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
tell me.
I'm going to create the Nunn run at this tournament. I'm going to leak. It's not a leak. I'm going to, but like using the format. Unfortunately, like the format, because StarGG does not have the people who are qualifying for the LCQ. StarGG projections are off. But with my clout, I do have the correct projections. So I'm going to create a bracket run here for Nunn. Listen to this and tell me how impossible this sounds. He beats Slug. Then he goes into round 2, and he beats someone who has had a historically rocky relationship with Falcon. He beats IBDW, and then he doesn't play Leffen because Leffen loses to Lod. So in order to make it out of pools 3-0, he plays Lod, person who he did beat at Summit this year. I think they split sets and had all this weird tiebreaker shit, but a set that I think he could win. Now, I think Cody's really good versus Falcon right now and really annoying. None has complained to me about Z Jump before,
I was
specifically
gonna say.
with regards to Cody.
Yeah, I was gonna say with Cody, that might be a little tough.
Okay,
But everything else, yeah,
this
that
is
seems to
YarnYoshi. This is content. I'm building a narrative. Well, okay.
all right. Finish
That
it
was it.
off.
He gets 3-0. He's in top 16 as one of the top seeds.
What if he
And
goes
then-
2-1? What if he loses to Cody? Because that's the more realistic one, just based on recent, like even what he's been talking about.
Yeah, well, if that happens, then it all depends on what happens in other scenarios, right? That's going to be a little harder to dictate. Yeah, like you have to fill out so many other things in order for that to happen.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fair. I know it's the Swiss pools.
Is there anyone that Nunn doesn't want to play against? Let's like auto lose for him.
I think it's the Sheiks, dude. I was just gonna say, I think it's the Sheiks. I think that's
right?
an annoying matchup for him. Yeah.
Maybe the
So,
Sheiks, Mango. Is that it?
I mean, he's lucky. He doesn't have Mango's not in this pool.
Mm-hmm.
Jmook is, so maybe you don't get away from everyone. We talked about Cody. Cody's, he's had a rocky relationship, and how it's been recently has been pretty damn good. Yeah, I mean, you're right. He's got Spark in there. He's got, dude, honestly, Falcon Icy is as we know it. People would say is Falcon favored. He is the guy who did hate the Icy's matchup as a Falcon player, right? That was a thing. So I don't know. I think Nunn's super good, and I think you're right. At some point, we see him run it back because he is not someone who is just like going to go through a slump for the rest of his career, hopefully. But I think he needs to buy in to being a good player, because the level of talent here is really good. So if he's fully invested into being here and playing really great melee, I think that he could go really far. But if he's not, I think that slug as your literally first match of the tournament is scary. And I think that a tournament or a pool that has like Spark somewhere in there or Magi somewhere in there, even SFAT, who's done well versus S2J at their past few sets, I believe. Like these are scary people.
I'm kind of thinking though for none, like just obviously I know him pretty well and spent a lot of time talking to him. He's kind of the guy that would just like lose to Slug and be like, thank God that's out of the way, and go smoke a cigarette and then come back and play some amazing melee. So I'm like, in a way, I almost think that like, yeah, it's scary for him, but sometimes when you lose in winners and then all of a sudden all your nerves are gone, if you've gone through that
Yeah.
sensation and you're like, I just don't care about what happens now. I think that might happen not just for him, but for a lot of players that are a bit shaky right in that first match and then go on after losing to have some really exceptional performances. I think that might be how it pans out for none. Because out of curiosity, I don't want to go. I don't know how much. I don't know how much Swiss math you have to do. But if none loses round 1 to Slug, what does that look like for him? Do you know?
All right. Yes, he would play the loser of the other matchup. So if he beats Slug, he plays IBW. If he loses Slug, I'm also assuming IBW beats whoever's in this slot.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so he would probably have to play someone who doesn't make it into winners through the qualifying round, but does qualify. So whoever that might be, maybe
Okay.
that's uh I don't even know. Maybe that's like solo battle. Who knows, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It's that's really hard to say. But I mean that's scary because that is someone who you've lost the only set you played, and you are playing against someone who we know is really good because we talked about how stacked the LCQ is, and they played yesterday, right? Like,
Make it in. Yeah. True.
yeah.
That's true.
So we'll see.
Um, Yeah, he's a weird one though. That all I'll say is he's a weird one because he just like doesn't seem phased by that stuff that much. He's just
Yeah.
like whatever, man. As far as none goes, he's one of those guys that never really, and I think it's a good way to be. But he's never really talking about how the other guy's playing. He's always just like I'm playing good or I'm playing bad, and that's what dictates the outcome. While that's not like objectively the case, I think that it helps for him to stay calm. So I don't know if he'd be one of the players that falls prey even under those circumstances to necessarily
What if
like
none goes Ganon against Slug?
good.
Yeah, maybe. That's
Um,
possible. Slug's always had some sort of idea of counter picking versus Peach or versus Ganon versus stuff like that. Like I know that there's been a Fox, and I think I've heard rumors of there being a Sheik, so we'll see. But yeah, in terms of this event, though, I think it's time that we jump to the main thing. We're talking about people who can do well. What about people who can win the entire thing here? Because that group does seem significantly smaller, but honestly, for in terms of melee, that what we've seen in history is probably almost the widest it's ever been. So we're talking about we've got out of the top 8, your Zane, Cody, Hungry Box, Jmook, Leffen, Amsa, Mango. We're only missing Plop. You've got Lod who's going to this. You've got Wizzy who's going to this. Axe has been doing really well recently. I mean, S2J has been doing really well recently. Like all these people, they either have been killing it recently or are due for a comeback. And it just is leading to this event where I honestly like we don't know what winter semis are going to be. We don't know what winners finals are going to be. It's so wide open that I would not be surprised to see anything. But at the end of the day, I think we need to make some gut decisions on who does it. YarnYoshi, it's your first time on the show, and I gotta be honest, you've been hot and cold with me. I don't know about Sunsei. I don't know about how you've been feeling about him, but he's been on my nerves. And he's been on my good side. It's really tough to say.
I
But
said it before the show, and definitely still feels like a weird hostage situation where someone's been forced to dress up as Yoshi, but now been loving the Yarn Yoshi.
YarnYoshi, I guess we should bring this up as a question before we talk about who you think's going to win. We've gone. The canon is that this is a costume. This is not your skin. That's good to establish. How long have you been wearing the Yoshi costume? Is this like a security
I
blanket?
would say for about like 3 hours.
3 hours. Okay. So this is so despite you being named YarnYoshi, and saying at one point you said in my language it would be handing me the egg, meaning that you have developed a language that
Yeah,
replaced
kind
the
of like
word ball with
slang, I would
egg.
say.
Okay, slang. Okay. So despite the fact that you use a different vernacular that includes eggs in place of regular words, you only have been wearing this for the past 3 hours. You've never worn it before.
No, I have not.
Okay, interesting. All right, stage
I
fright, I
usually
guess.
wear a lot of green though.
Oh, green. Okay. Do you like Luigi?
Yeah, he's okay.
He
He's
wears
cool.
green.
I like Eddie Mexico.
Okay, that's cool. He doesn't wear green as much as Luigi does.
I guess so.
Yeah, sorry to break that news to you, but we're not talking about any Mexico. Well, maybe unless you really believe we're talking about people who can win this event, and I want your true take. I want your true take on who is going to win the Ludwig Smash Invitational. What I only assume is going to be marketed by them as the largest, as the most important Smash tournament of all time, as the hardest Smash tournament of all time. So I want your opinion. Who is going to win the Ludwig Smash Invitational?
I think. Okay, I'll be real here. I know everybody thinks I'm gonna pick Amsa because he won the last two events, and I know everyone thinks I'm YarnYoshi. It's a big joke or whatever. I truly think that Amsa has a very good chance at winning this tournament, and it does feel like
Really?
era that we're in a new era where we're learning a lot about a player that is continuously breaking the through the proverbial glass ceiling or whatever. And I do think that he has a chance of winning this tournament. At the same
Would you like
time,
Would you like to take a bet?
at the same time, I think this pool he's in is very hard, and I don't see a version of him coming out of this pool beating every single opponent or beating the majority. I think there's a very good chance that if he has to play three of Amsa, Moki, Lod, and None, or if he has to play like those four, I think he might lose 2 or 3 sets, and that might hurt his chances in the final bracket. So I think if we're going by like pure matchup by matchup, it's really hard to bet against Cody. I think I think Cody's just really solid. His pound for pound matchups against every single person in the top eight is so good. There's a little bit of sometimes there's consistency issues before, but that all happened like way back before Cody was winning really big tournaments. And I think if you're looking for people that have turned losing matchups into winning ones, have gone even with some of their tougher matchups, and don't really look that don't even in matches that they lose don't really look that far off from turning it around. I think it's got to be Cody. I hate to admit it, but I think he's just really rock solid in every area. I think he's going to win this event.
Cody, IBW, great pick. Soon say, what do you think?
I got it. I've got it down to like 3 as far as my or maybe we'll say 4. And I know that's not great, but we'll say my like S tier picks are Mango Zane. It's a boring answer. I get it, but I think Mango's more than proven. Like even amidst like his reputation, I guess for Mister, not so consistent this year. I think he's proven even in events where he's not all that consistent. He's had some pretty solid performances that are like thirds, fifths. Like it's not like he's looking. Oh my god, sorry, my cat is like attacking my desk right now. Say hi to Oscar, everybody. It's kitten. No, I would say Mango's a decent pick here. Zane's a decent pick. I think Zane's looked really, really good. And honestly, like, I don't know. I don't think we're going to be in a situation where Cody beats Zane 4 times in a row. Maybe play the. Obviously, there are individual odds. I just don't see it happening that way. Not to say that Cody couldn't do it. And then my dark horse pick here, and I know it's going to just be Canadian shilling, but it's Moki. When I look at Moki's pool, not that I know he only has to technically play 3 people and then some tiebreakers depending on it if it's not like clean. But I don't look at Moki's pool and think that like I think he's a strong favorite into a good chunk of those matchups. and at least even with everybody. And I genuinely believe that. I don't think he's weak into Cody at all. I think he's strong into Amsa. I think he's strong into Leffen. I think he's strong into Lottie. He has a lot of Peach experience. Obviously, he's played None a bunch. There's not a world where I see Mo. Not that he has to play all of the players in this Swiss Bowl. I get that. I'm just saying, as far as he looks going into this event, I wouldn't be shocked because obviously he has his bustery moments and but his mentality's looked great. I think he's come out of the big house feeling really good about where his head's at, and I think that's been like his blocker. It's not he's kind of like a lot of great players that have been struggling. It's not in the hands, it's in his head. So I really do believe like Moki's due for something special to happen.
Some great picks there. Earlier in the show, I know YarnYoshi said that last time we had episode, Ambi saying the winner of Plup Leffen was the biggest hedge betting of all time. So I'm not sure if YarnYoshi, if you have any words for Sunsei picking 4 people. But if you don't, I can go ahead with mine.
I'll stick with my one. I'll stick with my Moki pick. I will actually ride on that. I will ride on the Moki. I'll ride on the Moki horse. I mean, what's the worst that happens? He wins and I look amazing. And if he loses, well, all right. Someone great won the event.
Right. And you were the
You know, there was a Monday Morning Marth that jumped into Moki's chances at that went into Moki's chances in the kind of bracket that he'd need to win and sort of what's kept him back from winning this year. And one of the things I'll say is that I think this format lends itself, you know, both with just how it's structured and with the player pool to things that are a bit more in Moki's strengths. That's one thing. I think that like it's good that Zane and Mango are kind of right now in the other pool. We'll see how that turns out in the other, and as far as how the bracket turns out. And you know, for Moki, I think the bigger than, you know, any individual person at the top tier, it's really just been about like getting there to his favorable matchups or like the matchups that we know he can win. So I think this format is very good for him.
Yeah. I mean, hey, he's definitely a dark horse candidate to win anything, and I'd be super excited if he did. But I don't think he's going to be my pick. So I want to really quickly go over. You know, sometimes I look at these things and I say the thing that I really believe in most, and then sometimes I'm like, well, it's kind of boring if we all pick the same thing. And September, I decided that I was going to say that IBW is going to win this event. I was like, he's not going to win the big house. That's too soon. But he's someone who I really believed will do well. And watching the big house, I was like, yeah, he's not going to win, but I'll still think that he's going to beat or he's going to win Ludwig's event. And then just like as time moves on, I'm like, yeah, I still believe it. And I get on this podcast and my new friend YarnYoshi just says IBW, and I'm like, well, I could pick IBW. I think that's probably the smart pick. That's the pick that I believe in most. But what if not everything goes my way? Because not everything is easy like this, right? I was informed by Cypher of the Bottom of the Smash Mountain podcast that whenever I pick Leffen to win, he loses. So maybe it doesn't always go my way. Maybe it doesn't make my life easier. And I'm thinking of things that don't make my life hard at this tournament. And the thing that makes my life the hardest, as someone who is involved with rankings and seeding and talking about rankings and seeding, is if we have a new major winner. So that's why I think that J-Mook is going to win his first major, and it's going to be one of the most stacked majors we have. And then we have to deal with almost every single person in the top 8 winning a major. I think Plup probably the only one who has it, which is very funny, unless you want to consider CEO a major. And I think his chances here are hard. I will admit, you know, his pool does have Cody in it. Cody is someone who I had said last time we were on before the big house that I think that Cody's favored, and I think that J-Mook's really good. So I will always say that J-Mook has a chance, but like I might need to see him win again to believe he's got a really good chance, because right now it seems pretty Cody favored. And you look at the other people in his pool, and it's like, yeah, I mean, what if he faces Slug in if they both go 2-1 and he faces Slug, right? What if he faces Amsa? Amsa's someone who he took a set off at the off season, but is still negative against. Like, all these people are pretty scary. Even if, like, what if he faces a Leffen that's decided, you know, that he's going to be winning again, because Leffen has done that in the past and can do it again. But I'm going to throw a caution to the wind. I'm going to say that Jmook is going to win this. It is definitely a tough tournament, but it's one that honestly I think is doable. All these people here, he's got good shots against, and in this chaotic type of format, I do think that there's chances that he could do well. Zane's obviously not someone who is just going to like fall over at the sight of Jmook anymore. Not that it was ever like that, but I still think that he can beat Zane. I still think he can beat if he plays Leffen, maybe. Maybe he even brings it against Cody. Mango's been playing super well, and I really want to see a high level. I want to see Mango right now versus Jmook because the sets that we've seen versus them have been good, but not really. It doesn't seem like two people playing at 100%. So I want to see that, and I want to see him versus Amsa again because he took the one set. I think he can do it. So it might not be the smart choice. It might not be like YarnYoshi who made the smart choice, and it might not be the cool choice like Sunsei. I might be missing the boat in both directions, but I'm kind of bridging them together, and I'm going to pick Jmook as my pick. So we've got YarnYoshi. Thank you for being here, YarnYoshi, by the way. We've got YarnYoshi with Cody. We've got Moki from Sunsei, and we've got Jmook from myself. So that is going to be it. And hey, we might be all wrong, right? That's just the way that the tournament is. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. And we are on the way out. Before we go, we have some questions for you, Sunsei. We're probably going to have to narrow it down just because of time constraints. But I can go ahead with.
How many do you have?
We've got 4. How about
Okay.
this? YarnYoshi, you have the questions in front of you. You can pick one. I will pick mine first. You decide whatever's worth it. We've got good questions. We used to make fun of our people for writing bad questions, and they wrote good questions. So this is from Melee Stats intern, and honestly, most well-liked member of Melee Stats. SF, what is your favorite Matt Damon movie?
Oh man. I actually I'm trying to think. So I had seen Good Will Hunting a really, really long time ago and thought, oh, what a great movie. I'm still missing some from the Matt Damon collection, like Rounders. But what was it? The Departed. I think The Departed takes the cake.
That would be my
Departed?
pick.
The Departed was a great movie. I actually watched The Martian recently for the first time, which was also really fun. I enjoyed that as well.
Talented Mr.
If it,
Ripley? You ever seen?
yeah, I have seen Talented Mr. Ripley. It's been a long time though. I think I watched it as a teenager and just like got bored at the time, so I'd have to go back and watch it because I think it is a great movie, or a lot of people love it. But yeah, so I'd give it to The Departed. Thought it was fantastic. Or if I had to pick one other one as a close second, loved Ford versus Ferrari. Just as the whole package, I thought that that's one of like his better recent movies that he was in. And I mean, I know Christian Bale kind of stole the show too, but it was dope.
Yeah,
Dope,
can't
dope,
say I've
dope.
seen it. But yeah, good picks. YarnYoshi, do you think we have a time for another one, or should we just move on to touching grass?
Let's get through this one just really quickly.
Oh, I can speed run your questions, baby. I can.
Yeah,
Trust me,
one
I'll
is
bang
one
them
of our
out.
players.
We've got one last segment before we throw it off after this. So let's just get through one more and then we'll
Okay.
go on to that. Because that has
Yeah,
been known
so
to go a
this one
little
is from Sharp. What goals do you have within competition? Do you want to make it full time or is it just a hobby?
This is a tough one because I know I said I'd speed run it, but now that I know it's the last one, then I will.
Hey, that's a hard one to speed run as well.
People have, it's been brought up a few times that I talked to Toph at Gommel, and he gave me like the motivational speech of a lifetime. I had sort of been at a point where I was falling out of love with Melee a little bit, just from how much it seems like you have to do to make it. Even like it doesn't matter if you're great at the game. Well, it does, but like there's so many factors on top of that that I felt like I've had for a while. Like I've been good at talking, been okay on camera, been as far as personalities go, I think I'm pretty palatable. And like the cards never really seemed to line up for me, so I was really like, okay, I'll just do Melee. And that's not like a woe is me thing. It's just people get opportunities and stuff works out. But it wasn't really always going my way. So with Big House kind of shot another dose of life back into what could be full-time Melee aspirations and streaming and turning it into a more full-time thing. But it's not like at the I would never ever call it a hobby. It's way too goddamn hard and time consuming to call it a hobby. But I was kind of hitting a point where I was like, man, I think I'm gonna have to pivot here into something and make something else like more of like a life goal because it just seemed to not be working out for me. but Big House kind of maybe just like I said, brought it back. I think I will try and make Melee. I'll give it one more college try, maybe two more college tries with the upcoming year of Melee. And if I see myself like if as far as goals go, if I see myself shoot up into like a top 10 contender and I'm getting more eyes on me and I can pivot into a strong stream presence, then I think you'll see a lot more of me. And if I'm not able to make that happen, then you will probably see less of me, but I will still try hard at tournaments.
Well, success to you whenever you do. And I will say that Melee is better with Sunsei in it. So I hope to see you continue.
I
Um,
appreciate it. I'm gonna do my best. I want to continue for the record. I do. It's just I also have to,
yeah,
cut it at some point.
it's tough. I think
Yeah,
that's
that
the
makes
question that a
sense.
lot of people have to ask themselves. But we talked about Melee with Sunsei in it. Let's talk about Sunsei without the Melee because our last segment, officially unnamed but affectionately known by the fans as Touching Grass. This is the segment where we talk about stuff that's been going on in our lives, something we've been interested in, maybe something that we've been doing recently, been watching recently. That doesn't have to do anything with Melee. We talk about Melee so much that it's easy to just see us as people who only know Melee, but we have other stuff out there. So I'll go really quickly first. And I would mention that the Philadelphia sports teams are doing very well. Sans the Sixers who lost tonight, and also Sans the Phillies who lost tonight as well. But the Phillies, who are a team that almost did not make the playoffs, are they're in the national championship. They could possibly make the World Series. The Eagles are 6-0. The Flyers are supposed to be very bad, and they are currently 3-0. It's very fun to be a sports fan in Philly. However, I cannot use this as my thing because I mentioned it a few weeks ago when the Eagles first started doing well. So instead, I will talk about instead of the atmosphere in Pennsylvania when it comes to sports, I will talk about the environment in Pennsylvania, which is the leaves are turning colors. It's beautiful. It's getting crisp in the air. I know that you are. I think you spent some time in the Northeast. Were you in Ontario at some point, right, Sensei?
Yeah, that's correct.
So you know how it is over here. Obviously, you've got a different climate. Well, not climate, but it more Pacific Northwest type of vibes over there, probably. Um, but yeah, I love when this starts happening in the fall and the autumn in the Northeast. Just I've been like going on little tiny trips to parks and stuff. I went to like a big lake that I've never been to. Got to see all the beautiful colors of the trees around the lake. I saw a heron eat a fish. That was very fun. So that'll be my thing. Instead of sports, it'll be nature. I enjoyed taking nature walks and seeing all the beauty that the world has to offer me right now. YarnYoshi, what about yourself, man?
I went to a Renaissance fair last weekend. It was really fun. A lot
Oh,
of
that's
fun
cool.
outfits, a lot of
And
fun
you
activities.
did you didn't wear your Yoshi costume, right?
No, I didn't. I was too shy. I wish I did though.
Okay. So you've only started wearing it now. How long have you had it?
I actually received it recently, like um like Sunday, I want to say.
Sunday. Okay. When was the Renaissance Fair?
Renaissance fair is like wait, no, the Renaissance fair is Saturday, but
So
but
you
I
didn't
I,
even
re-
have. Okay.
I received the costume over the weekend. Yeah.
Okay. Well. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail. Go on.
No, that's all. The Renaissance fair was fun. It was a yeah, I love fantasy. I love the whole aesthetic and everything. That's it.
Great to
Sick.
hear. Sunsei,
Um,
you got anything that you've been into recently?
well, I was gonna say I appreciate the autumn. I mean, just to what you're talking about too.
It's
I over
great.
in Calgary. I'm Western Canada. It's nice. I think I've appreciated it more than ever this year until it turns into the brutal -40 that like my region is known for. So yeah, huge appreciation. But I've been big on game development. I've been working my ass off in Unreal Engine and like just kind of working on a few different passion projects. Just trying to brush up on that skill set a little more, not just like game development in its vacuum, but just I do a lot of software development related work, and it's tangential to my role. And it's been cool to sort of find a more creative outlet for those skills. And so the last little while has just been like an unfathomable amount of knowledge ingest, and pushing that. So it's been cool to make some headway in areas that I was kind of struggling with before, and work through more courses that I was just like struggling through before. So I feel like I'm finally hitting some breakthrough points there, which is cool.
Well, that's super cool to see.
It's not touching grass. Not touching grass at all. It is
Well,
very much at a computer, but whatever.
If you've listened to Waiting for Game before, usually our touching grasses, I was like, I've been watching this movie. And then
I see, yeah.
Edwin, who's not here, of course, Edwin will say that he's been watching some show or something. So yeah, you are well within the rights to talk about it.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's great to see. And I heard that if you post it on Twitter, you get a lot of followers. I know our producer JDMH has more followers than I do by almost double, which
Wow.
I'm not going to say hurts. But speaking of followers, this is the end of the show. Where can people find you if they want to search you out?
You know
Social
what?
media.
I think the stream's coming back soon, folks. I said it. I think it would be a good time to do it with the recent attention Melee's given me from Big House, and hopefully more with Ludwig's. You can follow me on Twitter at Soonsay, but with zeros instead of O's because gamer, and also because I'm pretty sure Soonsay was taken. And same bullshit over on Twitch.
Well,
2
you got that
zeros
going.
instead of O's. And yeah, and any and all support's appreciated, guys. I appreciate it. Honestly, this last week, the amount of support's been crazy. It's yeah, just unreal to see how many people care. And like I know that everybody's rooting for AMSA at Big House, or everybody's rooting for all their favorite players. And even so, it was so cool to get such a warm welcome from people who might have otherwise not been caring about me up until that point. So yeah.
Well, you've been great on this podcast. I've been loving to have you on. Definitely my favorite new person on the podcast this week. Out of
Appreciate
2,
it.
I won't say
okay.
who's number 2.
Yeah,
but you
I
are
got
number 1 out of 2.
I won the coin flip. YarnYoshi, eat it. Oh, sorry, it wasn't at him, right?
Oh, I don't know. But yeah, you've been great to have on. So yeah, definitely, you check Sensei out. He's going to be streaming. He's going to be on. He's going to be this Ludwig tournament. It's going to be at Summit. It's going to be a Panda Cup. Better or worse, it's going to be hard to avoid Sensei. But honestly, in terms of Melee, I think that makes it better. So that's going to be super sick. So thank you so much for being on. And thank you, everyone, for watching. If you want to watch live, twitch.tv/Melee Stats. We put the episodes on YouTube at the Melee Stats Archive. Over on YouTube, our main channel, just called Melee Stats, is going to have long form content. You can follow us on Twitter at Melee Stats Pod. We're going to have daily results reporting and links to our articles that we put on our website, which is meleestats.co. Stuff such as Monday Morning Martha wins Melee. meleestats.co/shop if you want to wear any of the merch that you see our players wearing at these tournaments. And if you love everything that we do and you just want to support us in any way you can, patreon.com/Melee Stats. Sensei, thank you so much for being on. I will see you at the Ludwig event. I will see you Sunday. So hopefully Sunday you are in bracket and you are winning. But if not, I will avoid you. But I will be there. Yeah, we'll figure something out.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Of course.
Yeah, thanks for letting me on.
Yes, and YarnYoshi, lovely to meet you.
Thank you so much. I know that Edwin lost the bet and said he would have to wear a Yoshi costume. So he still has to do that because this is YarnYoshi on, and Edwin Bunny has not worn a costume. So maybe he'll do that next time we're on. So we are going to see you then. We're not going to be doing an episode next week, but we're doing one the week after. We'll talk about Ludwig's event. We're going to talk about We're going to talk about everything. So we'll see you then. Peace.
See you.